What's good, YouTube? It's your homie Pitch Black. Back with another reaction. You know I had to see what my man Stephen A got to say. You know what I'm saying? You're going to keep it all the way real. So Stephen A, without further ado, hey, before I go into that, like, comment, subscribe, share the vibe. Make sure y'all tune in to the Black Jam podcast on the Black Jam Network on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. Make sure you go check out Black Warrior Company Candles on Instagram, Black Warrior Company Candles. Go check them out so I can get paid. You feel me? But let's go.
I'm telling you, ain't no more stopping me.
P. Diddy is not guilty, at least on 3 of the 5 charges. He might not spend any time in jail.
Yeah.
That might happen, y'all.
Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith Show in the house, special edition.
Yeah.
Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, usually at the very least 3 times a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Having said all of that, forget all of that, because that don't matter today. Today is a special edition, and I'm getting right into it. Let's get started. P. Diddy was found not guilty on 3 of those charges. The Diddy sex trafficking trial verdict is in. Jurors in Sean Diddy Combs' federal criminal trial acquitted him of the most serious charges: racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking.
Man, that Diddy Bop shit gonna be something serious for you niggas, man. That nigga finna come home on his shit.
Shazam!
He finna come home on his best shit.
Shazam!
I'm talking about this nigga finna, man, what?
Trafficking, but found him guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs could receive a prison sentence of up to 20 years. The maximum is 10 for each of the transportation counts. If he had been convicted of any of the other counts, the 55-year-old could have faced life imprisonment. The defense has asked that Combs be released while he awaits sentencing instead. A request the prosecution opposed, of course. The judge said he'll make a decision after the sides submit letters at 1 p.m. Eastern time earlier today. At the time of this taping, we were still awaiting a decision from the judge as to whether or not P. Diddy would be let out on bail. After the verdict, Combs faced the courtroom gallery and clapped, and his family and friends erupted in applause.
Yo.
Ladies and gentlemen, to a lot of you, this was a shock. As this trial unfolded, I can't sit up here and say to you today that it's a shock. Because time and time again, we repeatedly asked on this show, where is the case for sex trafficking being made? Where is the case for racketeering and those RICO charges? Where is that being made? And the jury spoke earlier today and said it wasn't made. Not enough to our satisfaction.
It wasn't finished. It wasn't none.
We are going to let him out. What exactly did they let him out on? Let's go over that again. Count 1, racketeering, conspiracy, up to life in prison. That was the penalty. P. Diddy was found not guilty. Count number 2, sex trafficking of Cassie Ventura, his former girlfriend, that we saw him on video hitting and kicking.
Not guilty.
That drew a minimum of 15 years and a maximum of life imprisonment if convicted. He was found not guilty. Count number 4.
So basically, listen, if her husband stay with her, he is a goober. Hearing all that shit she did voluntarily and consensually, while she was with you, my boy, whoa, you better take half of that bag she just got from Puff and get the fuck on.
Sex trafficking of Jane, the Jane Doe, another ex-girlfriend, a minimum of 15 years and a maximum of life imprisonment. He was found not guilty. For those of you who don't understand it, Jane is basically a placeholder named in the U.S. and some other legal systems when the identity of a person is withheld, okay? So that's why they say Jane Doe. He was found not guilty on that charge. Here's the charges he was found guilty on. Transporting individuals, including but not limited to Cassie Ventura, to engage in prostitution. A maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. He was found guilty on that charge. He was also found guilty on transporting individuals, including but not limited to Jane, to engage in prostitution. Basically, same charge, two different people, the Jane Doe and Cassie Ventura. He was found guilty on both of those charges. So, the worst case scenario is that he could be sentenced to 10 years in prison for each, okay, and that he could face up to 20 years. Everybody that I've spoken to, and I'm about to bring you two legal experts to explain all of this to you. Okay. Everybody that I've spoken to said, forget 20 years. He's not even getting 10.
Yeah.
In all likelihood, it won't be 5. And there's a slim possibility that he'll get 2 to 3 years. So you've got people out there speculating that it could be 1 to 0 as it pertains to the amount of time that P. Diddy spends in jail.
Yeah.
Why on earth would that happen? Well, there's a couple of reasons to point to. Clearly, the Southern District of New York, an elite prosecution unit, didn't do their job well enough. So they didn't get him on sex trafficking. They didn't get him on rap.
Wait a minute now. I got to disagree. Maybe they did do their job well enough. Maybe they just got beat. Maybe maybe that's the case. Maybe they just got beat. Maybe they did their job well enough. And they just found somebody that's better. There's nothing wrong with that. It happens in life. You can't, it's always somebody tougher than you. The prosecution thought they was tough as fuck, but they found somebody tougher. Here we go. It's continue.
Racketeering. They didn't get him on that stuff. Okay? They didn't get him on it for Cassie Ventura or Jane Doe. That's number one. Number two, what's another reason why he could get off? Because now it's at the discretion of the judge. And if the judge is pissed off because you've had this dude in jail since last break practically, and the judge is of the mindset that you didn't make your case and you just piled on. So you made this argument on behalf of the Southern District of New York and you didn't make your case. You essentially wasted the court's time. So why are we going to waste any more time on this particular issue? When you went and you was hell-bent on putting this man behind bars for the rest of his natural life, and now he's in a situation where he could face minimal time. Why waste the court's time any longer on this issue? The judge could make that assertion. He could make that determination. He has the power to do that. We also have to take into account that P. Diddy can appeal the two charges that he was found guilty of in terms of transporting individuals to engage in prostitution. So you remember when Elliot Spencer was the governor of New York? Remember when he got in trouble and he had to leave office because he was using an escort service and had one particular woman who tickled his fancy, but who knows how many that travel from New York to New Jersey. The thing about that case is that he was never charged with a crime. So Diddy's team can make the argument, why is he being charged with this? Why was he charged with this in the first place? It was clear overreaching by the prosecution, which has now been exposed.
Yeah. I'm talking about for
P.
real.
Diddy may end up not spending any more time in jail. At the time of this taping, we are sitting here waiting for the judge to decide whether or not Diddy's going to be let out on bail until his sentencing. And if he's let out on bail until his sentencing, and then he comes back for his sentencing, and that sentencing could be anything from 1 to 2 to 3 years in prison, or maybe it's just community service and a stiff fine.
Time served.
That's it.
Woo.
The fact that you lost not once, not twice, but on 3 separate charges that could have given him 15 years to life imprisonment is bad for the prosecution.
That dude might get fired.
And if we're being honest, because we have to go here, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't look great for a lot of supposed victims out there. Now, before I go any further with this subject, let me be very, very clear. My heart goes out to any of those victims out there. Any real life victims of the kind of things that Cassie Ventura and that Jane Doe described. For something like that to be happening to anyone is egregious, and I personally believe that people who do that stuff should be thrown under the damn jail, as do most human beings, in terms of sharing those kind of feelings about people who perpetrate such heinous acts. But we got to be real about something here. Diddy getting off on this charge, on these charges, was the jury saying, we don't believe you. For the most part, we don't believe you. Why would they say that? Because the text messages that were revealed between Cassie Ventura and P. Diddy showed
Consent.
a willingness on her part to participate in the quote-unquote freak-offs. In the eyes of the jury, you were complicit. It was consensual. They weren't buying that you were forced. The same could be said for Jane Doe and what her text messages revealed. Remember, there were occasions when the freak-offs didn't even involve P. Diddy. And you had Cassie and Jane engaging in freak-offs of their own volition and picking partners that they wanted to be with. That's what the jury is saying. Stephen A. Smith ain't saying this. I wasn't in the courtroom. I didn't hear every nugget of evidence. I'm just telling you what they said. I'm just telling you what they said. Now, the Southern District of New York, Homeland Security, remember when they went to his homes in Miami and L.A.? And, of course, attorneys for the alleged victims are going to have their own things to say. And let's hear what they have to say. Let's put it right up for everybody to see. Because we have to make sure that we're paying attention to that. This, what I'm about to read, is a joint statement from Jay Clayton and Ricky J. Patel, U.S. Attorneys for Southern District of New York and Special Agent in charge of New York Field Office of Homeland Security Investigations. Here's what they had to say. Sex crimes deeply scar victims. And the disturbing reality is that sex crimes are all too present in many aspects of our society. Victims endure gut-wrenching physical and mental abuse, leading to lasting trauma. New Yorkers and all Americans want this scourge stopped and perpetrators brought to justice. Prosecuting sex crimes requires brave victims to come forward and tell their harrowing stories, they said. We and our law enforcement partners recognize the hardships victims endure and have prioritized a victim-centered approach to investigating and prosecuting these cases. You know what that sounds like? All that, respectfully, it sounds like covering your ass. What they're essentially saying is that we had extreme justification for bringing these inordinate amount of charges against P. Diddy. Respectfully to the Southern District of New York and the Homeland Security, what I would say in response to that statement that I just read is that the jury is saying you overreached.
And with that being
The jury
said,
is saying that your case wasn't nearly as strong as you purported it to be.
and with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, share the vibe. Diddy, I'll see you in a minute. I know you finna come out with, ooh, y'all niggas better watch out. If it was me though, I wouldn't go into hiding, but I'd just go off the grid, man, because I seen everybody who flaked on me and stuff like that. But, it is what it is. He'll be home in a little while. No sweat. Peace.